you see the space between our bodies? Barely a hand, hardly a breath. It is the space mountains and rivers are made of. It is the beginning of oceans, the space between either and or, both and neither, the happiness of forgetting our names and the happiness of hearing them for the first time.
It is easy to dismiss poetry as being disconnected from the human, the everyday, the useful, to deride it for being snooty or dense or purposely confusing. What is difficult is encountering the kind of poetry that makes the world clear. Li Young Lee is that kind of poet, a poet of clarity, even if that clarity is admitting to multiplicity and to wonder at the simplest, most difficult facts of life. Born in Jakarta after his parents fled China, Lee is a poet of witness to exile, loss, family, love, and stitched through it all, the intimacy of faith. Whether that bond appears in his poetry between a father and son, a god and a human, or a body and the air around it, Lee dares each of us to open our eyes wider to the world. There is nothing as divine as this life. There is nothing flawed that is not deserving of a poem. I'm Rebecca Hoogs, the Executive Director of Seattle Arts and Lectures. You're listening to Sal On Air, a collection of talks and readings from the world's best writers from 38 years of Seattle Arts and Lectures. In this recording, you will hear Li Young Lee from his visit to Sal in 2008. If you were lucky enough to hear his reading on November 3rd of 2025, you will have witnessed how his acclaim has only grown since then. Author of 6 beloved poetry collections, a memoir and a translation, Lee is a poet whose voice has shaped generations of writers. Following Lee's reading in 2008, I had the honor of joining Lee on stage. We shared poems and laughed, considered Shakespeare, philosophy, popular culture, and squirrels. Vulnerable and honest, it was a delight to share the stage with Li Young Lee. This is Sal On Air.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Molly, for that wonderful poem. Brilliant. How old are you? It's not fair. Thank you, all of you, for coming out. This poem is called Station. This is about my love for train stations. Station. Your attention, please. Train number 9, the Northern Zephyr, destined for River's End, is now boarding. All ticketed passengers, please proceed to the gate marked Evening. Your attention, please. Train number 7, Leaves Blown By, bound for the color of thinking and renovated time, is now departing. All ticketed passengers may board behind my eyes. Your attention, please. Train number 4, the 20th Century, has joined the wind, undisguised, to become the written word. Those who never heard their names may inquire at the uneven margin of this story, or else consult the ivy lying awake under our open window. Your attention, please. The music, arriving out of hidden ground and endlessly beginning, is now the flower, now the fruit, now our cup and cheer, under branches more ancient than our grandmother's hair. Passengers with memories of the sea may board leisurely at any unmarked gate. Fateful members of the foam may proceed to Cloud and Veronica. Your attention, please. Under falling petals, never think about home. Seeing begins in the dark. Listening stills us. Yesterday has gone ahead to meet you. Your attention, please. Train number 66, Unbidden Song, soon to be the full heart's quiet, takes no passengers. Please leave your baggage with the attendant at the window marked, your name sprung from hiding. An intrepid perfume is waging our rescue. You may board at either end of childhood. Thank you. This is a poem. Some of the details in this poem come from my very early life of being born in Indonesia. Every so many years in that country, the indigenous population kills a bunch of Chinese, and my family got kind of swept up in that when I was a very young boy. It's interesting that in this country, every time it's reported on the news, they say Muslims are killing Christians, but we understand that it means the indigenous population they're purging the Chinese, and some of the details come from that. This is called A Hymn to Childhood. I'm sorry, I ate nuts, and I'm allergic to nuts, but I couldn't resist. They were so good. I just kept, and so I have a slight itch in my throat. This is called A Hymn to Childhood. Childhood? Which childhood? The one that didn't last? The one in which you learned to be afraid of the boarded up well in the backyard and the ladder to the attic? The one presided over by armed men in ill-fitting uniforms, strolling the streets and alleys, while loudspeakers declared a new era, and the house around you grew bigger, the rooms farther apart, with more and more people missing. The photographs whispered to each other from their frames in the hallway. The cooking pots said your name each time you walked past the kitchen. And you pretended to be dead with your sister in games of rescue and abandonment. You learned to lie still so long, the world seemed a play you viewed from the muffled safety of a wing. Look, in run the servants screaming, the soldiers shouting, turning over the furniture, smashing your mother's china. Don't fall asleep. Each act opens with your mother reading a letter that makes her weep. Each act closes with your father fallen into the hands of Pharaoh. Which childhood? The one that never ends? Oh, you, still a child and slow to grow, still talking to God and thinking the snow falling is the sound of God listening. And winter is the high-ceilinged house where God measures with one eye an ocean wave in octaves and minutes, and counts on many fingers all the ways a child learns to say, me. Which childhood? The one from which you'll never escape? You, so slow to know what you know and don't know. Still thinking you hear low song in the wind and the eaves, story in your breathing, grief in the herd dove at evening, and plenitude in the unseen bird tolling at morning. Still slow to tell, memory from imagination, heaven from here and now, hell from here and now, death from childhood, and both of them from dreaming. Oh, I messed up already. Now I'm this is, Okay. This is called tearing the page. Now that doesn't make any sense to read, but you know, we're going to start from the beginning. Okay. See what you have to look forward to, Molly. Wonderful things, senility, neuroses, all those good things. Okay. This is called Have You Prayed? And it's about, when I was a child, my father asked me every morning, have you prayed? And I said yes, lying to him every morning. And this is about that experience. Have you prayed? When the wind turns and asks, in my Father's voice, have you prayed? I know 3 things. 1, I'm never finished answering to the dead. 2, a man is 4 winds and 3 fires, and the 4 winds are his father's voice, his mother's voice, or maybe he's 7 winds and 10 fires, and the fires are seeing, hearing, touching, dreaming, thinking, or is he the breath of God? When the wind turns traveler and asks, in my Father's voice, have you prayed? I remember 3 things. 1, a father's love is milk and sugar. 2/3 worry, 2/3 grief. And what's left over is trimmed and leavened to make the bread the dead and the living share. And patience, that's to endure the terrible leavening and kneading. And wisdom, that's my Father's face in sleep. When the wind asks, "Have you prayed?" I know it's only me, reminding myself a flower is one station between Earth's wish and Earth's rapture. And blood was fire, salt, and breath, long before it quickened any wand or branch, any limb that woke speaking. It's just me in the gowns of the wind, or my Father through me asking, "Have you found your refuge yet?" Asking, "Are you happy?" Strange, a troubled father, a happy son, the wind with a voice, and me talking to no one. Thank you. You know, it made even less sense to go back because now, geez, you know, okay. Rebecca and I were talking about this earlier, about improvisation and having a program. She said improvisation, she's more comfortable with improvisation. No, she's more comfortable with, where is she? I said I was more comfortable with improvisation. You said you were more comfortable with a program, and I should have. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm stalling for time. Okay. It's all up for grabs now. All right. This is called self-help for fellow refugees. Yeah. Somebody told me that self-help books are the biggest selling books in the world. So I thought I would write a self-help poem. I'd be rich and famous by now. Self-help for fellow refugees. If your name suggests a country where bells might have been used for entertainment or to announce the entrances and exits of the seasons or the birthdays of gods and demons, it's probably best to dress in plain clothes when you arrive in the United States, and try not to talk too loud. If you happen to have watched armed men beat and drag your father out the front door of your house and into the back of an idling truck before your mother jerked you from the threshold and buried your face in her skirt folds, try not to judge your mother too harshly. Don't ask her what she thought she was doing, turning a child's eyes away from history and toward that place all human aching starts. And if you meet someone in your adopted country and think you see in the other's face an open sky, some promise of a new beginning, it probably means you're standing too far. Or if you think you read in the other, as in a book whose first and last pages are missing, the story of your own birthplace, a country twice erased, once by fire, once by forgetfulness, it probably means you're standing too close. In any case, try not to let another carry the burden of your own nostalgia or hope. And if you're one of those whose left side of the face doesn't match the right, it might be a clue looking the other way was a habit your predecessors found useful for survival. Don't lament not being beautiful. Get used to seeing while not seeing. Get busy remembering while forgetting. Dying to live while not wanting to go on. Very likely, your ancestors decorated their bells of every shape and size with elaborate calendars and diagrams of distant star systems, but with no maps for scattered descendants. And I bet you can't say what language your father spoke when he shouted to your mother from the back of the truck, "Let the boy see." Maybe it wasn't the language you used at home. Maybe it was a forbidden language. Or maybe there was too much screaming and weeping and the noise of guns in the streets. It doesn't matter. What matters is this: the kingdom of heaven is good, but heaven on earth is better. Thinking is good, but living is better. Alone in your favorite chair with a book you enjoy is fine, but spooning is even better. Thank you. Okay. I'll read couple of love poems, I guess. I am sure that we've all experienced, falling in love, and my own experience is that before, you fall in love, before you find somebody to love and who loves you back, you're in a state of, isolation and loneliness and all that good stuff. And then you fall in love and you are overwhelmed with immense feelings, cosmic-sized feelings. And you find that you can't find the words to articulate those feelings, which isolates you even more, and sometimes you can't even articulate them to the one you love, which isolates you completely. And so you start out being alone, but falling in love makes you even more alone. So in a way, it doesn't make any sense, but I've come to the conclusion that that's exactly the way it's supposed to be, because ultimately the nature of maybe human evolution is for us to achieve some sort of relationship or relatedness to God. And isolating you, cutting you off, is one way to do that. it doesn't sound as happy as it actually is. I think it's supposed to make you happy. But that's what this is about. This is called trading for heaven. Actually, the next, I'll read 3 more poems, love poems, and they're all about that experience. This is called Trading for Heaven. I saw you at the top of the stairs. Now I live a secret life. I saw you holding open the door. Now I'm filling pages with things I can't tell anyone. Now I'm more alone than I've ever been. I traded every beyond, every someday for heaven in my lifetime. Now I'm dying of my life. Now I'm alive inside my death. Do you see the space between our bodies? Barely a hand, hardly a breath. It is the space mountains and rivers are made of. It is the beginning of oceans, the space between either and or, both and neither, the happiness of forgetting our names and the happiness of hearing them for the first time. I heard you singing yourself to sleep. It was a song from both of our childhoods. And now I don't know if singing is a form of helplessness, time's architecture revealed, or some inborn motive, all blood and breath obey, to enact a savage wheel. I found you at dawn, sitting by the open kitchen window. You were sorting seeds in a plate. And if you were praying out loud, I'll never tell. And if you were listening to the doves, and if their various hooing and cooing and dying in time are your earliest questions blown back to you through the ragged seasons, and if you've lived your life in answer to those questions, I'll never tell. Your destiny is safe with me. Your childhood is safe with me. What you decide to bury is safe with me. Thank you. This is one I'm still working on. This is called Treasure. Treasure. Of all the things on my mind tonight, God is the most hidden, and your body, love, the most real. Of all the things keeping me from sleep, words weigh the least. Death weighs the most. And your body is a green boundary joining them, an agent of freedom and law. Of all the things, words weigh too much, yet not enough. time weighs nothing at all, yet I can't bear it. And your body, burdened by minutes and ancient rites, dressed in the wine and smoke of sacrifice, is my favorite sad song. Your body, disguised as time and the shape of between, is a cloud seeded with dreams of science, music, and math. And day lies on the other side of you. Of all the things I'm dying from tonight, being alive is the strangest. Words leave the deepest holes. You are the most naked and hidden, and God is the most real. Thank you very much for your generous attention. This is the last poem for tonight. It is 4 pages long, and I'm ashamed to say it's completely autobiographical, and it's called Virtues of the Boring Husband. It is a self-portrait. Virtues of the Boring Husband. Whenever I talk, my wife falls asleep. So now, when she can't sleep, I talk. It's like magic. Say she hasn't had a good night's sleep in a week, feels exhausted, and lies down early in the evening, but begins to toss and turn. I just lie down beside her, prop my head up in one hand and say, "You know, I've been thinking." Immediately, she calms down, finds a fetal posture, and tucks her head under my arm. I know she lies dispersed, though in one body, claimed by rabble cares and the need to sleep. "Will you stay?" she asks. "I'm right here," I answer. "Now what were you saying?" she wonders, and so I talk. It isn't that lovers always meet in a garden, and already her eyes get that dizzy look, like she can't focus. "Go ahead," I tell her. "Close your eyes." "Okay," she says, "but you keep talking." And so I do. It isn't that lovers always speak together in a house by the sea, or in a room with shadows of leaves and branches on the walls and ceiling. It's that such spaces emerge. Out of the listening, their speaking to each other engenders. I mean, maybe, and she sighs. Her breathing begins to slow. And I remember something I heard somewhere. Every so many breaths, a sigh. Every so many sighs, sleep. Or was it every so many sighs, death? I go on talking, now stroking her head, pushing her hair back from her forehead, clearing her bright brow, and listening for her next sigh. Maybe the face-to-face, true lovers enact manifests a prior coincidence of heaven and earth, say, or body and soul, equal opposites exchanging and combining properties in perpetual transformation, shore and not shore, sea and sky, room and a world, the gazer and the gazed upon. Little twitches run the length of her, beginning with her arms, then her legs, then her feet, as though tensions were being fired from her body. She mumbles the beginning of a word. I go on talking. Maybe the union of lovers is an instance of a primary simultaneity, timeless, from which arises the various shapes of time and duration, arrival, departure, waiting, resuming, fountain, terrace, path, and eve. And maybe any world is born, is offspring of the liaison between God and mind and mind's source. I count her second sigh, lower, longer. Or maybe God says, I love you, and the whole universe, consciousness included, is a shape of that pronouncement. Or maybe there's no you in that, but only I love, ringing, engendering all of space, every quadrant, an expression of God's first nature. I love. Or maybe a you arises as echo, the counter ringing to the sovereign I love. And we're the you to the source's I, the second person to God's first personhood. Then, to surrender any sense of an I is to feel our true condition, a you before God, and to be seen. Being seen, the crowning experience and mystery of a you. Maybe too often we mistake the guest for the host, confusing the I and the you, and yet maybe out of that confusion more worlds arise. By now, she's barely listening, if at all. I lower my voice and go on rambling, afraid she'll wake if I stop too soon. Maybe love for God amounts to the beloved returning the lover's gaze. And out of that look and looking back, that linking look, all of our notions of space, home, distance, beginning, end, recurrence, death, debt, fruition, number, weight, emerge, all are issue of that meeting between lover and lover, our soul's intercourse with what it loves. By now her jaw has gone slack, her fingers loose, where earlier they were clenching the edge of the blanket, and I'm almost whispering. Maybe it's true, what sages have said. I don't know if I'm remembering it right. Something about moving up a ladder of love. Maybe we learn to love a person, say, first as object, and then as presence, and then as essence, and then as disclosure of the divine. Or maybe all at the same time. or discovering over time each deeper aspect to be true. And maybe our seeing it in another proves that face inside ourselves. Oh, I don't know. You sleep now. And then I stop talking, kiss her forehead, and wait a minute before leaving the bed and closing the door behind me. Thank you very much.
We'll be back for the rest of the event with Li-Young Lee in a moment. But first, I wanted to tell you about an event coming up with Aja Monet on February 5th. Aja Monet is a Grammy-nominated surrealist blues poet, musician, and cultural worker whose poems sing to us of love, gender, justice, and spirituality. Florida Water, her latest collection, is a vulnerable meditation about the poet's migration to South Florida in search of love, connection, and belonging. This multi-genre event will move between mediums, combining music and poetry for an unforgettable evening. Tickets are available now for both in-person and online attendance at lectures.org. And now, more from Li-Young Lee. Thank you for that. You are a wonderful reader, in spite of the nuts.
Oh, thank you.
When writing, how much do you think about how the poems will sound aloud?
Well, the poems, I read them, when I'm writing, part of my revision process is to read them over and over, to hear it, and so I guess I think about that a lot, maybe.
You said earlier that part of your reading practice has come out of an attention, a presence. Can you say more about that?
Well, first of all, I feel as if, you know, I come out of I guess a very old spiritual tradition, a Taoist tradition originally, and then a Christian tradition. And I'm told that even the Buddhist tradition believes this, that in the beginning was the word, which is to say in the beginning was relation, because that's what a word is. A word is an instance of a relationship. And to my mind, it is the relationship between the I, the you, and the it. And, you know, Martin Buber articulates this so beautifully, and I'm amazed at how Taoist it is when he, you know, his book, I and Thou. But, so, I think, what was your question?
My question was about your reading style and how that has developed in relation to your thoughts about presence.
Yeah, so I feel as if we are the fullest presence when we can achieve the fullness of that I and you. Mm-hmm. That there really is, you know, this is so wonderful, and I'm just, you know, reiterating what the Taoists have said, but there's no such thing as an I, there's an I-you, or there's an I-it. So every time you say I, you imply I-you, you imply I-it. And so my feeling is that the deepest and most profound aspect of poetry is that it achieves this I-you, you know, of the word. Does that make sense? Yeah? It
does, yes.
Yeah, so that the listener feels a you, you know. Mm-hmm. Because I know when I started reading great poetry, I felt so visible. I felt somehow like when I read a Robert Frost poem, which is weird, right? Because he's a white, dead guy from New England, but I felt really visible. I couldn't account for that, so it wasn't. Or when I was reading Emily Dickinson, you know, she's a dead woman, white woman from New England. It made no sense that I would feel so visible, but I felt she saw me, and so I felt this you emerge in me, even a thou. emerge in me, and I felt like it was a gift. Because up until then, I felt completely invisible. And so I think art can do that, Rilke says that in Archaic Torso of Apollo, where he says, there is no, he's looking at this, do you guys know this poem, Archaic Torso of Apollo? Rilke's looking at this torso, the broken off torso, and he says, there is no place on this body that doesn't see you. He felt completely visible, which makes no sense in a way, right? I mean, which would imply too that we're not just a product of our history and biology, that there's something that art sees or calls to that is not totally accountable. Maybe there's a long answer to a short question. Sorry.
And then he says, you must change your life.
You must change your life, right. I was reading a book by this guy, his name's Sir Kenneth Clark. It's an old book called Civilization. It was so brilliant in so many ways, but he talks in the book about this instance where he walks into, I think, the cathedral at Chartres. Am I pronouncing it right? Chartres? Mm-hmm. And he said he felt this injunction that he would have to change his life because he experienced this art form, this cathedral. And he decided that he couldn't, because if he changed his life, it'd be too hard. So he decided not to. My God, can you imagine that? I mean, that's terrible. And he had the courage to admit it, So I don't know. So what's the alternative to that?
To not changing?
Yeah, that would be like hell, right? I mean, you see a piece of heaven, you feel visible, and you say, okay, I'm gonna, and you say, nah, Wow, that's amazing to me.
Do you think it's radical for a poet to write about love in the 21st century?
No. No, it's the oldest thing. No. It's so old.
I think this is a related question. What do you make of the debate about sincerity in poetry? Why are people afraid of sincerity? Are you afraid of sincerity?
No, my whole thing, this is what I think. I think for me, the practice of art is a yoga. The opus, the work, isn't actually the poem or the book of poems or anything like that. The work is trying to help facilitate the I-you relationship. What happens is this. Buber is so brilliant about this. He says, if your relationship to the world is I-it, then everything's an it, right? People are it. But then he says this really tricky thing too. It's brilliant. He says, well, what does that do to the I if it sees the world as an it? It isn't an I. It's an it. So you're an it, dealing with other its. And that's really dangerous, right? But he says, if you achieve an I-you or I-thou relationship, what does that do to the I? That I is the real I. There are people who are a you. You see, you bestow, or you grant them, or you allow them visibility, and you allow yourself visibility. Then you're an I. So that this I is a great achievement. It's not. See, I know we use the I as a kind of abbreviation of this body form, right? Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I think we're me's. We're not an I. And I think that the I is achieved. It's like the Hopis who say, we're not born human, we achieve humanity. And I think the Buddhist or the Taoist would agree with that the I is something to be achieved. It's a wholeness, it's a completeness of I-you, you're not born with that. You're born feeling like an object, and other things are objects, people are objects, and so on. And so I think the I is an achievement. So I think that sincerity, there's no way to that except sincerity. The Taoists say you don't even practice meditation unless you're ready to be sincere, because there's no, you can't even get to the good stuff unless you're sincere about it. You can't, yeah. And by sincere, of course, they mean wholehearted, Mm-hmm. Yeah, sincerity is the achievement, right? That's what we're working to be. Unless we think we're destined to be pathological or something, you know.
Is there a point in your writing when you realize that something is becoming a reoccurring motif or symbol, or that you're using a common referent? And if so, do you then focus on it, or do you look away from it? Do you come at it directly or from the periphery? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, you know, my problem is I have a very small vocabulary anyway. You know, this is true. And I don't know, you know, sometimes I use certain words, probably too often, but I'm confused a little bit about that, Rebecca. I don't know how you feel about that as a fellow poet, but sometimes I think, well, maybe this poem will last longer than the last poem in which I mentioned the birds. So that doesn't count, right? Do you know what I mean? Like maybe this poem in which I mentioned, like this love poem in which I mentioned my wife's body. That poem is a better home for the word body. And the last poem I wrote, in which the word body emerged, wasn't a good poem. It isn't a good place for that word to live, and it'll die. So who cares? You know, nobody will read that one, and this one maybe one person might read after I die, and so this will be. So I don't know how that works. Do you know?
I do. Yeah. That's encouraging.
Yeah.
I feel like I have more words available to me now.
Yeah.
I can go back to old poems.
Yeah.
I was reading your most recent book, and it would be hard for the audience, if you haven't read that book, to hear this, but you employ quotes so frequently in the book, quoted language, marking words as said, though to my reader, to this reader, it didn't always seem like they were said things, but rather part of an internal monologue. And I was just interested in your thoughts about what function the quote mark or the marking these things as said does for you in the poems. What function is that playing, and what difference, is there a difference between spoken language and thought language when it's on paper, when it's not being even said?
Yeah. You know, I don't know, Rebecca, that I love that question, but I'll tell you this. There's a kind of a longish poem in the book called Lake Effect, and it's a conversation between a man and a woman. And, you know, I thought it was actually a conversation between a man and a woman. And my editor said, I love those internal dialogues. I said, what are you talking about, internal dialogue? And she said, well, like Lake Effect, you know. I said, well, that's not internal, those are two characters. And she said, well, come on, Leon, that's and then I realized, oh my God, that's an internal dialogue. And now I don't know whether I had to repress that knowledge in order to write the poem, because I had to believe. I thought I hear two people talking. I hear two people. You know, an I and a you talking, or a she and an I, or I don't remember now, but yeah. But I mean, I heard two people talking. You know, maybe a psychologist would say, well, you know, they would have an explanation for it. But I was trying to get those voices down. You know, and now that I look at it, it's kind of like when she told me that, it kind of bummed me out, because I thought, wow, now the mystery's gone. It was all in my head, you know. It wasn't, I mean, you know what I mean? And so my real struggle was I kept trying to like flesh it out. I kept asking myself, well, where are they? Are they in a room? Well, what's going on? Who is this? Is this, you know, me and my wife? My wife and I? What is the right thing? Me and my wife? My wife and I? My wife and me?
That works.
You know, and I didn't know. I thought, you know, if I would have known it was an internal dialogue, I might not have written the poem. You know, because I would have thought, well, then why put it in two voices? It's me. Right? So I don't know.
So the quote might be ruined for you.
Right. So I thought I was writing quotes. Yeah. You gotta believe me, Rebecca.
I do believe you.
Straight with you.
I do believe you.
I mean,
I was just thinking maybe you had a hidden career as a screenwriter.
No.
No.
But I will tell you this. This made me read Shakespeare differently because I thought to myself, these are long poems. It totally radicalized the way I read Shakespeare. Because now, I mean, right after she told me that, I was, what is the word, agog?
Agog.
You know, yeah, and I thought, I got to go reread Shakespeare. And I have been rereading him, and I'm looking at it, this is a long poem. It isn't voices. These are all in his head. Now, what made me think they weren't in his head? Did anybody else know these were voices in his head? No, I'm serious. This is a real question. I mean, I thought they were like, he was hearing voices, but I guess that is in your head, right? I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, these all seem...
Yeah, like what's inside, what's outside? I can't tell. Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to go on.
Well,
hard to know where to go.
Those are difficult questions.
They are. Well, I mean, has that influenced how you write yet? I mean, reading Shakespeare and with this new knowledge of your own work, has that influenced, you said it's influenced how you are reading Shakespeare. Do you think has that cycled back into your own writing yet?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's terrifying me, because I thought, oh, it's just me making stuff up? What a terrible thing. I thought this was like a...
But why is that terrible?
That sounds really lonely and isolated, and no? It's just me making stuff up, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't sound terrifying to you, Rebecca, that it's all in our heads?
No, it doesn't. But
so maybe you're more courageous.
No, I don't think so. Let's go on. For many years, you worked in a warehouse loading boxes, though you could have certainly had any number of prestigious teaching positions. Why load boxes? Did that affect your poetry?
I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
Number one, every time I taught, I found out that I really didn't know what I was doing. And number two, you're in a university, you're with a lot of people who are smarter than you. But in a warehouse, I'm the smartest guy in the room. That counts. But the bad part, no, this is true, that's true. And the bad part, of course, is when I was in the warehouse, everybody was a poet. And when they found out I was writing poems, the Chicago newspaper did a thing, poet works in warehouse, so they did a little article. And when it came out, everybody came up to me and said, you're a poet, you write poems. So they started showing me their poems. And I thought, oh, cool, like they'll be like Philip Levine or something, great poets of the working class. They were terrible. They were terrible, So, in the warehouse, I'm the best poet there, This is true. It's true.
Speaking of other poets like Phil Levine, could you recommend 3 poets whose work was influential to your own poetic voice?
Denise Levertov. Just kind of knocked me out. Levine, of course. Too many. Frost, there's just so many. Yeah.
What sort of non-poetry books and movies do you like?
Non-poetry books.
Self-help.
Yeah. At my warehouse, the biggest selling book is How to Outwit Squirrels. It is. It's the one we ship out in the hundreds. I have not actually read that book.
It might be an opportunity.
Yeah. But right now, I'm reading for the umpteenth time, Buber's I and Thou. It's just blowing me away. He calls it I and Thou. The Chinese call it the yin and the yang. the Christian alchemists call it Rex and Regina. That is the completely paired, dual aspect of being. That being is not one, that it's dual, paired, and just to come up with that idea that he calls it I and thou, it's so personal, but it has a long tradition, the Rex and the Regina, the yin and the yang, the and so on and so forth, but that's the one that I'm reading now. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. You've said, quote, "The culture is a reaction of what's going on in our souls." What in this cultural moment gives you hope or pause about what's going on in our souls?
I don't remember what I was thinking when I said that, but I see the culture as I don't know if it's a reaction, but it's a projection, right? Human culture is a projection of psyche. And I hope that we're integrating more stuff from the unconscious. And as we go through that, we're going to see a lot of weirdness, maybe violence and bad stuff, that's being integrated in the culture. But I think there's a reason to hope, because I think ultimately we're working toward greater wholeness, greater acknowledgement of, of just greater acknowledgement of the I and the you, the real achievement of that relationship. In the world, I hope. I don't know. I have no idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was an honor to host Li-Young Lee in 2008 and to welcome him back on the podcast today. If you enjoyed listening, we welcome you to join us in person and online for our 38th season as we hear from authors like Cristina Rivera Garza, Javier Zamora, Emma Straub, and Marlon James. Tickets and subscriptions are available at lectures.org. Thank you to the Seattle Arts and Lectures staff, board, and community, and thanks to all of you for listening. This show would not be possible without you. Our show is produced by Jack Straw Cultural Center with theme music by Daniel Spills. To hear more, subscribe from wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, rate and review us 5 stars so that more people can enjoy Sal on Air.